Every single person in this world has a story to share. Your story is your superpower, and it's unique to you. In sharing it with the world, you can impact millions of people. If you keep it to yourself, you are doing the world a disservice. This is Dela. I'm the host of Dela's Voice, and I help you share your superpower with the world.
Wow. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another Dela's Voice Sunday live talk show. What an absolute blessing for me this is, to have this platform where I can speak to incredible, extraordinary individuals from around the world, to bring their stories to you, but learn so much in the process. I believe that every single one of us has a unique story that is our superpower. And that superpower is how we can touch the world in a special way to impact lives and help others live better lives. Today, I have one more fantastic guest for you. I believe everything happens for a reason. And everything happens in good timing. Coach Stephon, Leary, and I were supposed to have our show last month. And he lives in Texas, and a storm hit. And he was out of power, out of internet, and so we couldn't make that show happen. I believe there was a reason behind that. We'll find out today. We may be able to learn even more from Coach Leary today. And so without further ado, I'm going to introduce Coach Leary. Just a little bit of a bio about him, just so you have a background story. And then he's going to come on here and we're going to squeeze him for everything he's got. Ready? Okay, here we go. Former college basketball player. He is a coach. He's a counselor. He's a best-selling author of his book, They Call Me Coach. He's a motivational speaker. Coach Leary is also an inventor, and he's the patent holder of the Xcelerator training and rehabilitation boot. I want to hear all about that. His message is to inspire others to believe that their best life lies ahead. And sometimes there will be challenges, is that the truth? To help you discover your greatest gifts to fulfilling your purpose and becoming successful. Coach Leary wants to encourage the message that the bridge of race relations and the power of love can change our perspective and make a difference in the world. He says, if I can do it, so can you. This message resonates with me. I think love brings unity. And so today I am super excited to be speaking to Coach Leary. So let's bring him on and let's get to know him. Coach Leary, welcome.
Hello.
Welcome on Dela's Voice, Coach Leary.
Oh,
This is my applause for the crowd.
And applause for your intro as well.
Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you. It's such a pleasure to visit with you today.
You know, as I was reading your bio, which I have read before, I just had an aha moment. So I believe the reason we had to wait this long to visit is because I needed to do something in my life that brings me to this very moment. And so as I'm saying love and unity, I realized that within the last 2 weeks, I have been in the process of organizing my own conference called Love and Unity.
Oh, wow. How about
And
that?
so had we met a couple of months ago, this would not have been
Would
in the
not have been able to
process.
share it with me, right?
No. Well, there you go. Well, welcome, Coach Larry. Thank you so much. You are joining us all the way from Texas.
Correct.
Yeah,
Houston, Texas.
little bit warmer weather than up here in Canada.
Extremely nice outside right now. In fact, I'm actually visiting my parents in their farm today, and so as soon as I'm done with you, I'm going out in the hot sun and enjoy the day.
Suit is coming off, and you're
suit's
gone.
off, and we're outdoors.
Well, I appreciate you wearing a suit for me.
Oh yes, of course, of course.
Thank you. It's very nice to meet you, Coach
Very
Leary.
nice, very nice.
Okay, so I want to take a moment and welcome all our viewers. We are going to spend the next hour getting inspired by Coach Larry. So thank you for being here with us. And please share this talk with other people so that they can also benefit from this talk. You just never know whose life you might touch today by sharing this talk. And we want to thank you for staying with us and giving us your comments. If you're watching and you don't comment, I won't see you. So I won't be able to say hello and send love back. So make sure you drop us a line so that we can say hello. And let's get started. Awesome.
Let's do it. I'm so excited.
Yay. Okay, Coach Larry, I'm just going to put up this our topic on here so that when people join us, they can see what we're talking about. You are more than what you see.
Oh man.
I asked you, I said, Coach Larry, if you could talk about something for 1 hour without even being prepared, what would it be? And you dropped this line, you are more than what you see. What does this mean to you?
Oh, I can't tell you how much this means to me, Dela, because I've been able to become so much more than I ever saw myself. And the way life started and the way that life starts for many of us, we look around and we're programmed to live our lives based on what we see. So as a young kid growing up in a family of 7, single mom, my mom was married to an abusive man who abused her and us as kids, that she decided to run in the middle of the night from Louisiana to Houston, Texas. And when growing up in Houston, Texas, 7 kids, single mom, in a 2-bedroom apartment, what I saw was just the inner city. And what I saw, I didn't know that there was opportunities beyond what I saw. I had an encounter in life that opened my eyes to the possibilities of what my life could be. As a kid growing up, you always see, I love sports. I tell people all the time, sports saved my life. And so I played every sport just to be active, stay out of trouble. But I didn't realize that while I was living in the inner city, I didn't realize the power of influence it was having on me, my parents, my family, until my eyes were open. I met a coach in a gym, and this coach took me to a Hall of Fame basketball players camp by the name of Pistol Pete Maravich. Pistol Pete Maravich was a tremendous man, the first $1 million player in the NBA, but he lived his remaining life sharing positive things about people, helping change the lives of people, the course of people's lives, inspiring them through becoming a Christian. So I go to this camp and I don't even know who Pistol Pete is. I don't even know what a Christian camp looks like. But the camp was in Clearwater, Florida. And this coach took me to this camp. And while I was at the camp, I was a pretty good player back then. So I was the best player there. But I was somewhat of a little hood rat, right? So I had some rough edges. In the city, you're taught to, survive. You're taught to be the man. You're taught to not allow anyone to beat you. And so to be on top, climb that mountain, no one knocks you off. So that was my mentality when I went to the camp. And when I went to the camp, I just dominated it. I talked trash. I put people down. But I was the best player there. And Pistol Pete Maravich asked to have a lunch with me to close out camp. And I thought that was the most rewarding, most fascinating thing for me. I get to have lunch with Pistol Pete Maravich. Only to find out when I get to this lunch, he told me a lot of positive things about myself. He told me I was a great player. He told me that I remind him of another Hall of Famer, Tiny Archibald, and told me that if I wanted to be a professional, if I stuck with it and stayed out of trouble, made the right decisions, that I could be an NBA player myself. But then he finished that with, but I invited you to lunch to tell you that I usually give out an MVP award to every camper. And although you're the best player here, and although your team won every game and won the championship, I can't give you that award. He told me that your character doesn't fit the award. And I was devastated. First of all, I had never heard anyone say anything that character matters. And so I was like, what the heck is this? I dominated these guys. How can I not deserve this award? So in a fury, I turned the table over and I run out, and I was so upset. And this coach that took me to this camp, Dave Stallman, who's still a great friend and mentor today, I ran to sit on the curb. We were at Clearwater Christian College in Clearwater, Florida. And he came and sat by me on the curb and he said, I've seen you in the gym, and I've noticed the same thing that Pete noticed. And I brought you here because I wanted you to see a different life. And he said, I ask you to come and close out camp. I want you to listen to Pistol Pete's story, and then let's talk. So I go and I listen to the closing of the camp, and Pistol Pete tells the story of how he was a big mouth, braggadocious guy, and one day he almost got into a bar fight that cost him his life. When that happened, he changed his life and he became a Christian, and he began to live a life to inspire people to be the best that they're capable of being. When I heard that story as a little boy, 17 years old, tears come running down my face. For the first time, I was broken, contrite. I didn't understand what was happening to me because I wasn't used to Christianity. I didn't know much about it. But that night, June 18th, 1986, the course of Stephon Leary's life changed.
Ooh, okay, this is juicy. this is getting. I want to take a moment and take a breath here, because that's a lot for a teenage boy
Yes.
to digest. You got hit with something that you, first of all, character. What should that matter? I'm a good basketball player. That should be all that matters. I cream all these guys. You should be so lucky to have me play. Like, that's the sort of stuff that goes through a teenage mind, of course. And so to get hit with something like that, but still to be able to swallow your pride and walk back to finish, actually to watch them close the camp, like you said, to stay for that speech. That's a lot. I think there was more to Stephon Leary than the eye could see.
I think so. I think so. I was always a pretty good kid, so I wasn't a rebellious kid. I was just competitive and determined. But I didn't know where that would lead me in life because I had no sense of direction. Like I said earlier, I was motivated by what I saw. And when you grow up in the inner city, what you see is people tell you that you become rappers, you become entertainers, you become professional athletes. That's the way out of the hood. And that's why this topic that that we're discussing means so much to me, is because what I want to inspire people to understand is there's so much more to you than what you see. Your surroundings, your circumstances, regardless if it was being in the inner city or becoming, being in an abuse situation, or being, having made bad decisions and they cost you, and you find yourself in a place that when you look up and you look around yourself, it programs your mind to think that you're limited by what you see.
Yes.
And what I found in my journey and how God orchestrated everything in my path from that time was that I was so much more than what I saw. To even think to myself that Stephon Leary, I never thought about writing a book. I was talking to a great friend last night, and they said, man, you finished your second book. How did you do that? How did you write the first one? And I thought to myself, it's by the grace of God, because it was nothing I ever planned, nothing I ever thought of. I never thought about being a coach. I never thought about being a teacher. I never thought about being an author. I certainly never thought about being an inventor. I've become so much more than who I ever thought. But I had an encounter that changed my life. It changed the course of my life.
And we're gonna go to that encounter in one moment. I just want to make sure we say hi to our viewers. Every single one of them who are here have dropped us a line. So thank you so much. Frida's here and she's sending us hugs. Robert, hello, Robert. Robert says hello. Falguni says hello, and
hello.
Yes. And so Robert says, "Welcome, Coach Leary," and he says, "Character. I've often been accused of being one as a youngling."
We all are.
Okay. So let's go talk about that encounter. That was that encounter that changes your life now.
So this encounter, once I got back home, I tell people it was like the lights came on for me. For the first time in my life as a 17-year-old kid, I come back from Florida and I saw a drug dealer for a drug dealer. You see, I didn't see him as a drug dealer before. I saw him as a guy hustling, making money to get out of the hood. I saw crime for crime. I saw things that I didn't see before. It was like the scales came off of my eyes and I began to see things for what they were. But this coach had an interest in me, so much so he asked me about leaving the public school I was at and transferring to a Christian school. And at that time, I told him, what's a Christian school? I didn't know what a Christian camp was. I certainly don't know what a Christian school is. But he says, why don't you come out and visit? So I go out to visit this Christian school, and he wakes me up at 5 a.m. and takes me to a prayer meeting. Mind you, I'm an African-American man, a black man, and everyone in there was white. So I was a little bit intimidated by that. But it was all adults. They were all working moms and dads who got together and prayed early in the morning before they went on with their day. After the prayer, this wonderful woman by the name of Lynn Johnson, she walks up to me and she says, what is a young man like you doing here praying with these adults this morning? And I said to her, I'm with him. That's all I was a little bit intimidated. So I just said, I'm with this coach. I'm here to visit the school. And this woman, being a white, in such a loving, and I tell people an angelic voice, said to me, "That's funny. While we were praying, I felt a compelling in my spirit to offer you a place to live." And I thought, me? Come live with you? Okay. At that moment in time, I'm like, where's all this going? I'm not understanding what is happening. It's all so brand new to me. But I felt loved. I felt loved in a way that I had never, ever felt before in my life. I grew up in a family where mom works 2 and 3 jobs. We hardly ever saw her. She left food for us to eat. And if all the food was gone, you went out and you hustled for your own food. And so I didn't feel that kind of love before. I went to visit this family. And when I walked in, I saw there were 3 kids, 3 boys and 1 girl. And there was a second basketball camp, Dela, that happened here in Houston, Texas. And when Pistol Pete did this camp, he personally invited me to come to the camp. I go to the camp and I'm a changed kid. And I win every award. And as I win every award, he invited me, as he's never done before, to be on his staff. And so I ended up spending time on his staff before he passed away. He died the next year. But I visited this family and I realized when I saw these 3 boys, those 3 boys were at the camp and they were the same guys that were saying, "Hey, dunk it for us, play us one on." And so it was pretty. They were like, "Oh, it's him. It's the guy from the camp." But then I meet this wonderful, wonderful little girl. It's a blonde-haired young girl, my sister, Jessica Johnson. She runs up to me, this little 8, 9-year-old, jumps in my arms, squeezes my neck, kisses me on the cheek, and she says, "I love you. Are you going to be my big brother?" And I was so overwhelmed with love, with care. It was like God had sent angels to earth just for Stephon Leary. And in that moment, I went back and I told my mom, I said, "I think I need to leave home so I can become someone."
Whew. I have so many questions. This is like that movie.
Yes, The Blind Side. Everyone tells me that all the time.
This is like that movie. And as you're talking, I have faces for all the people. Wow. My first question is, how did your mom deal with the news?
Very, very good question. I think my mom was such a young lady. She had 7 kids by the time she was 25. And so mom was trying to find herself. She did the best that she could. She worked very hard to provide for us. But when she wasn't working, she also was trying to enjoy life herself. So it was almost as if I wasn't parented at that time in my life. And so she was not around much for me to really have the kind of relationship that she would have a voice in my life. However, because we grew up in a small town in Louisiana, that small town was racist. Still today, there are railroad tracks that divides the white and the blacks, and they're starting to cross over a little bit. But back then, it was like you don't cross the track at night, you may not come back. And so when I first told my mom, her concern was, and her words were, "These white people may kill you." because that's what she knew. And I said, Mom, they're not those kind of people. These people love me and they care about me. They're trying to help me be somebody. And so after telling her that, she basically said, do what you want to do. And I left home.
Stephon, I left my home country when I was 13.
Oh.
And so we moved to France from Iran. That's a big change. It's shocking change. And it took me a long time to adapt myself to the new cultures, a new language. It was a new environment, new friends, new everything. And so that was a big shock to me. It totally reshaped my character.
Yes.
And so I'm trying to think of the only thing that could ground me was the fact that I had the love of my mom and my little brother. Those two kept me grounded. You're a 17-year-old kid.
Yeah.
Going into a whole new environment. I swear to you, I don't think there's any difference. You had to learn new language, new culture,
It's so funny. It's so funny because my parents, my adopted parents and my adopted family are amazing people. They tried to make the transition as smooth as possible for me. So much so that the first meal that I had there, we had green stuff. We call it green stuff in our family because in the hood, you didn't eat green stuff. Mm-hmm. No one ate broccoli. What was broccoli? I couldn't spell broccoli back then. Asparagus. What's asparagus? I didn't know what those vegetables were. That's the amazing thing. But I tell people, I say I change in zip codes from the inner city to the suburbs. And what I saw and what I experienced shaped me and formed me in a way that gave me the confidence that I could be the best that I could be. It was an amazing experience, although it was difficult, which is why I ended up writing my first book. Because I tell people that as a 17-year-old kid, I lived my life from 17 to a couple of years ago until I became reintroduced to Stephon Leary. I had lived those years of my life as an adopted kid by a white family who was a great basketball player who played in college and had opportunities to play professionally and then became a successful coach. That was my identity. What I realized recently, the past few years, was I never went back and got to know that injured, neglected, abused, rejected, fearful little boy named Stephon Leary. And so I wrote this book because I realized many people knew me for my 17 to 50. But no one knew who I really was from 0 to 17. So much so that through failed marriages, through failure in my profession, through difficulties in my life, I found out I didn't know Stephon Leary either. Stephon Leary was a gifted athlete who became a coach and a trainer. And that's who I thought I was. And then I got reintroduced to who I was. And I began to see myself for more than what I saw.
Okay, so and wow, there's so many layers. Okay, so let's take a moment and see what people are saying.
Okay.
Whenever I have a Robert Brooker on here, he always, always, always sends us a lot of comments.
Awesome.
Yeah, he's great. Tammy's here also. Tammy O'Neill says hello.
Very different. Yeah.
And Lizzie T is here from the Lizzie T show.
Okay.
So Falguni says, I see so much love. Yes, your little sister came in your life as an angel.
Yes.
That was really moving. That little scene was really moving, and I could totally.
Still today, if she sees me, she hugs my neck and kisses me and tells me she loves me. Still today.
And Robert says, oh, now I realize where you're going here. Life kicked me straight in the head in 1995, and I remain grateful for that.
Yes.
And Tammy says, Stephon's story never gets old. How could it? How could it?
So many layers.
So many layers. Oh my gosh. I need to take a break here, Stephon. So we're going to just hear from our sponsors, and we will be right back.
Okay.
Okay, and we're back, and thank you so much for being here. Okay, so we left at you needed to get back and really get to know the pre 17 Stephon Leary.
Yes.
And so what happened that brought you to that realization, Stephon? I feel like there's a story there too. Like, was there
Stephon Leary growing up? Still today, I humbly say, I've never done drugs. I've never committed a crime. I made a lot of good decisions in my life to where many people see me as a good man, a good person. I've never been violent, never really done anything wrong. I've never even had a drink before. I've never tasted alcohol. My dad, biological dad, passed away because of alcohol. So I refrain from it because I say I don't know what it would do to my body, right? Many of my siblings chose the way of drugs and crime, and I saw that and I went in a total different direction. However, what I did not realize, Dela, what I didn't realize was that I was the one that probably suffered the most from the abuse and the neglect in a different way. And what I would like to inspire people to understand is we sometimes get caught up thinking about the wrongs, decisions that people have made through choices of whatever it is, and we put a finger on it to say that that was bad. And we look over the people who have made good choices in life, but not realize they're hurting inside. I didn't realize that I was such a broken child. I came face to face with Stephon Leary after my second failed marriage. And people would say to me, and I have a basketball and training organization, people would say to me, they'd say, Coach, you're such a nice guy. You're such a handsome guy. How is it that you don't date anyone? You're not in a relationship. And I told them, I said, because I didn't know Stephon Leary enough to love somebody else. So many other people poured love into me that showed me what love was, but I wasn't able to reciprocate it whenever I went through difficult times. It was best for me, the way I dealt with it was to work, to be driven, to be successful. And so that cost me in my life relationships because I couldn't deal with rejection, pain, neglect. It hurt me, and I had to get to know this kid. I have this image of this kid. I'm driving to Lynchburg, Virginia, when I was inventing my product. I'm driving on the road, and it was like God came and said, I need to sit in this passenger seat and talk to you. And so something came over me, a picture of a little boy with his hand over his head, sitting in a corner. And when that picture came in my mind, I thought, who is that? And it was like this voice next to me was saying, that's little Stephon Leary. I used to run to the corner and hide, put my head over my ears and my head when I heard the abuse of my father with my mom. And I realized when I was on that drive for the first time in my life, I felt like I was a wounded child. I never got over it. I never even was aware of it until the past few years. And so I've spent my past few years trying to heal from the abuse and neglect. I mean, everyone introduced me with this long list, and I'm so humbled by it because I don't know how I did it.
Isn't that amazing? You know, I can resonate. It resonates with me. Whatever you said was that, and it speaks to me because I've lived that life too, where the only thing that's pushing you through is the idea of I'm going to prove myself to others.
Yes.
It's as if that is the only self-worth. Is the validation you get from other people. It's like it is my duty, it's my mission to prove that I can do this, that I can accomplish this, because I'm not enough to be loved just for me. The only love I'm worth is if I prove myself. And I totally understand. It's so clear to me. And so
imagine being an athlete and a coach.
Yes.
I coached every sport. I went from football to basketball to baseball to track as a high school coach. And I was successful in every one of them. And so when I was married, if we didn't see eye to eye on something, I had hundreds of people telling me how great I was.
Yes.
And that cost me. And I got all of these accolades and data boys and pat on the backs from all the state championships and all of the coaching at the college level, doing NBA stuff, until it all ran out. And when it all ran out, I had to come face to face with the little wounded child in me that I first realized no one's saying great job anymore. And I had to realize who I was. And so in this topic, you are more than what you see. What I did when I wrote the second book called The Elevated Soul, and it's my way of expressing to everyone that there's an elevated soul in every one of us if we see ourselves more than what we see. And I made the parallelism to the wonderful Disney movie of The Lion King. And I took the life of little Simba, who ran from who he was supposed to be because of a tragic accident. And how many of us run from who we're supposed to be because of painful experiences in our lives, So much so that we end up in a place that we don't know who we are. Imagine little Simba still is a lion and he's in the jungle, but he doesn't know who he is to the point that a little meerkat and a pig he's supposed to be eating is telling him what to do.
Yes.
And so I say in this book, The Elevated Soul, You Are More Than What You See, is that when you lose sight of yourself, that people and things begin to define you till you don't know who you are. And the only way for you to know who you are and to see yourself the way you should see is that someone remind you of what you were born to do and the gifts and the talents that are in you. And like in the movie with Simba, his dear friend Nyla comes into his life and she tries to convince him of who he was, but he ran from her, and he also even told her, "Don't tell my mother I'm alive." And that means so much to me because I just had a brother recently pass away because he was on the run, and unfortunately he didn't return, so much so that we found him, or the cops found him, in a back alley in St. Louis, dead.
Sorry to hear that.
I realized when I was writing this book, I realized so many of us are on the run, but some of us are living with so much shame and so much doubt. We have allowed the pain of our past experience to define who we are, that if we don't get to the point and see ourselves the way God sees us, we lose ourselves. We lose hope. But what I want to inspire and encourage everyone, that there is hope. And Simba had hope when the great Rafiki entered his life. That's my favorite character. And
yeah, mine too.
Everyone's telling me I need to do the voiceover for my book because I have this story in my book.
Oh, yes.
And Rafiki finds Simba and he says, "Boy, you don't know who you are." And Simba says, "I'm Simba." And he said, "I know you. I know your father." And Simba says, "You do?" And then he drops his head and says he's dead. And I love the play. I love the scene in the movie when Rafiki says, "No, no, he's alive. I show you."
Yes.
And so he runs and runs. He said, "Follow me." And here's where we lose ourselves in life, Dela. As Simba ran in the movie, they give this description of Simba being a fearful kid running to a place where he could find hope. How many of us become fearful in life, searching for hope, searching for who we really are? And it wasn't until Rafiki tells Simba, he's down there. And Simba begrudgingly crawled down there and he looks at this reflection in the water and he says, "It's just my reflection." And I say to people, you are more than what you see, because how many of us wake up every morning and we see a reflection in a mirror? And that reflection is a reflection of pain, a hurt, abuse, neglect. And we don't see ourselves the way we should see ourselves. And Rafiki tells him, and this is one of the things that I want everyone to know: I did it, you can do it. Look hard.
Yes.
And as Simba looks harder, he sees his father in him. And in this book that I'm releasing, that you are more than what you see, I say, as Simba looked and saw his father in that movie, we can look and see the father of our creator who created us. And we can know that he lives in us.
Oh,
And there's a message in him living in us that he says, remember who you are. If we could take everyone back to when the bottom was so soft and you smelled like a baby and you were just the wonder of somebody's delight. You were created for purpose. You were created to love. You were created to be loved. You were created to inspire and achieve and to touch and affect this world in a positive manner. If you could only see yourself more than what you see, beyond the pain, beyond the neglect, beyond the divorce, beyond the whatever bad choices you've made in your life, or whatever circumstances you find yourself, way beyond it, you are so much more than what you see.
Ah. So good. So good. Hi, Katie. Katie says, I'm loving this comparison of searching for something in ourselves.
Yes. Yes.
Oh, you are more than what you see. You just have to look harder.
Look harder.
And
remember who you are.
You know what, Coach? This is the hardest part, is that looking harder, because often we're so we're so hopeless because we can't find anything that can give us hope. Like I mean, I'm thinking back at what happened for me, and I remember those days of looking in the mirror and all I could see was a reflection that I didn't like.
That's right.
And all I could pinpoint was the stuff I didn't like.
That's right.
I mean, and it's so different today, but just to think back at how desperate I was, how hopeless I was, what a fearful place I lived in.
Oh man.
And so many of us do that, and it takes a long time, and we're lucky if you get to this point of your life where you can actually say, no, I'm so much more than what
much more. You know, when you look harder, the other thing that's most difficult is that's where you find the pain. And we quit because we don't want to deal with the pain. When I looked harder in Stephon Leary, I found a wounded child. I found a kid that was fearful. And we're talking about a kid who went to a camp where I dominated and talked bad. And I thought I was really a bullish, confident, arrogant kid. And, you know, when I looked harder, I found that I was filled with some fear. But the last part of this movie is the most critical part of all of our journey in life. When he looks harder and finally sees his father appears and tells him, remember who you are. He tells him, you must take your place in this circle of life. And Simba's response was, as our response is in our lives, I can't. You don't know what I've done. And that's such a lie. No matter what you've done, no matter what you've been through, no matter what has happened to you, you can be great in this life. Your story, just like that's why your platform exists. That's why many platforms exist. There are people that need to hear your story. Your pain is not just for your gain. Your pain is for others' gain. And so what Simba says, what Rafiki says to Simba in this last aspect of this movie, he takes him out in the field and he says to him, he hits him on the head and he say, ow, that hurt. And Rafiki acknowledges what we all should acknowledge. He says, ah, yes, the past does hurt. And he says, but, and he swings again and he ducks. He says, you can either learn from it or you can run from it. And he learned from it. If we all would just learn from what we've experienced in our lives and use it to go back and take our place in this life and fulfill the purpose in which God's created us. And this mirror of reflection that you see, that you look at every day that doesn't reflect who you are, your reflection is a mirror of rejection, of pain, of hurt, divorce, or whatever. You got to get rid of that mirror. You've got to see yourself the way God sees you. He created you for greatness. And if you realize that, you can accomplish the purpose in which you were created.
I could just hug you right now.
Virtual hug.
I love you so much, Coach Larry.
Thank you.
Wow.
I'm excited about this book. It's The Elevated Soul. And I really believe that God's going to do some wonderful things with this book.
When is it coming out, Coach?
So I have an unbelievable opportunity that when I wrote the book, Dela, my mom, my adopted mom, she says, I want to edit your book because I want you to shine. And so I said, okay, Mom, my book's done. And I say, Mom, I said, this book is really good. I said, I don't know what happened. In fact, I said, I don't know who wrote this book. But when I went back, when I was done writing it and making some corrections, I read some stuff that I said, oh my gosh, who wrote this?
I wrote this?
I wrote this. And so I said to Mom, I said, Mom, I said, I think this book is going to be really good. And actually, my dear friend Tammy, who's on here watching, she reminded me, I had seen, my first book was published by Michael Butler with Beyond Publishing. And she said, you should try to publish that with TBN. And I was like, yeah, I've seen that. And I thought about it, but I don't know. And I decided I was going to publish it or submit it to TBN. And so I submitted the manuscript to TBN, the Christian television network. And they offered me a contract to publish the book. And so I'm hoping to get that signed, that contract signed with TBN, and it'll be all over the TBN and Hillsong Network, all of their stations. So many, many people can get this book in their hand because I want them to know they are more than what they see.
Oh my gosh. You want to keep up with Coach Leary. This is his website right here. CoachStephonLeary.com. His first book, You Are More Than What You See. They
call me Coach.
They call me Coach. Sorry. That you need to write a book called You Are More Than What You See.
Well, the title, that's what the second book is called The Elevated Soul. But the caption is You Are More Than What You See.
Okay.
And the first chapter is You Are More Than What You See. And it's the parallelism of Simba's life to our lives and so much more. It's a fascinating chapter. It's a fascinating chapter.
You know what? Everyone can resonate with this. Stephon, I think all of us at some point have resented our own past, and
yes,
if we're lucky, we really get to know that little self and start forgiving and loving and living again.
Here's a secret. I want to tell you the secret.
Tell us the secret. We like secrets.
There are two secrets to finding who you are and breaking away from being free This is what I've discovered in my life. And this is in this book as well. You mentioned the word forgiveness. I learned something about forgiveness and I learned something about love. I realized so much of life, so much of my life, and maybe yours and many others, we have been told and programmed to love God and love people. But I want to remind people of something. That's not what the greatest commandment says. You see what happened, Dela? The reason why we struggle with finding ourselves is just because we've been told not to look at ourselves. The greatest commandment says to love the Lord your God with all your heart, and all your soul, and all your might, and all your strength. And love your neighbor as yourself. And we have left the yourself off, and we are striving and churning, and everyone's trying to love God and love people, love God, love people. And we all find ourselves sometimes in a place where we like, well, I gotta love me. I can't love others unless I love me. That was the reason why I'm single. I wasn't able to love them because I didn't know how to love me. And the other secret is, so many times from the time that you're a child, when something happens, you are told to forgive them, forgive them, forgive them, forgive them. Say you sorry, forgive. No one ever told you,
Forgive yourself.
forgive you.
Oh, yes.
The secret to life and breaking the chains off once and for all to be free to be you is to learn to love you and forgive you. You are loved. You are worth it. You are special. You are the key to you being who God's called you to be and fulfilling your purpose in this life. You are.
So good. So good. You can't love others if you don't love yourself.
Can't do it. It's impossible.
Period.
It's impossible.
Oh, man. We're out of time. We're out of time. Coach Larry, I just loved speaking with you. I mean, I could listen to you for hours. This was amazing.
It's a pleasure. It's absolute pleasure.
Gosh. People, look out for the elevated soul. You are more than what you see. It's coming. You can find it on Coach Larry's website. I'm sure all the news will be there.
Yes.
As it comes out, you can buy it. You can buy his first book. They Call Me Coach on this website.
I'll be posting stuff on the Elevated Soul. Also, you wanted to know about the shoe I invented. I'm trying.
Oh yes,
the training and rehabilitation shoe.
Yes.
It's an inspired thing that God gave me through my training. I'm excited about that as well. But I'm on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, my website. You can find me. I'll be posting updates on everything that's to come.
Who is the boot for, Coach?
It's for training athletes and those who like fitness and training. The way that I came up with the second book is through my concept of inventing the training and rehabilitation boot. It has an elevated sole, S-O-L-E. And while I was studying the elevated soul, S-O-L-E, it began to elevate my S-O-U-L. And I wrote this book.
And that's how things happen.
That's right.
They do. Oh, you are so much fun. You're so much fun. I'm looking forward to our next conversation.
Yes. Let me know anytime. I'm always available.
Yes, it was awesome. And I want to say thank you to everyone who's been watching.
Yes,
I mean, we've had other people join us and lots of comments here. Way too many to read. So I just want to make sure we say hello, Jack. Jack is here. And he says, great line from the Lion King. And
Yes.
then we have my friend, Walking with Tiger 2018. My friend, you really need to pick a shorter name, because I love having you on the show all the time, and I want to read your comments. I better make a shorter name for you. WWT. WWT.
WWT, yeah.
And Robert Brooker, as always, you have been an amazing viewer, leaving us all your beautiful comments. He says, my comments age like a fine cheddar. They get better with age.
There you go.
And he
There
says,
you go.
thank you, Stephon, Leary, and Dela. It is resonance that determines how much I add to the comments. Yes, I can see that, Robert. Thank you. Coach Leary.
Yes.
I want to give you just a couple of more minutes I don't want to let go. So I want to give you a couple of more minutes to please leave us with whatever you like. This has been an amazing, inspiring day already.
In conclusion, I would simply say to everyone, God created each and every one of us with purpose. And it doesn't matter that, for me, my life being discovered came through an adoption of a white family. I didn't know who I was. I didn't know what I was capable of. I was gifted with talents and abilities that I had no idea I had. And whatever your situation and your circumstance is, whatever you find yourself in right now, I'm telling you, you are more than what you see. I was a coach and a trainer for 27 years, and I thought I would die a coach and a trainer. I cannot believe, beyond the coach and trainer, I've now discovered that I'm a best-selling author who, by the way, I tell people, I was one of the kids who met up prior to school in the locker room and shared answers for our homework to be turned in. It didn't start out like it was supposed to. And it may not start out your life, may have started out like it was supposed to for you. And maybe there's been some bumps, some highs, some lows. But I want you to know, if you've reached one mountain, that you got to go down to go back up to a higher mountain. And whatever happens when you're going down, keep the faith, stay the course, always believe, and never lose hope. You are more than what you see.
Amen to that. Oh, so good. So good. Inspirational. Just motivational. Amazing talk today. Coach Leary, thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. It was
I'm honored. Thank you
to have you here, and everyone else for joining us today and keeping with the comments. And just, I'm so blessed and grateful to each and every one of you. And Coach Leary, God bless you.
God bless you
for everything you do, and the way you inspire the world and the way you impact other lives. Keep going. We'll be watching you, Coach Leary.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
It's my pleasure. And for everyone who's been watching, have a fantastic Sunday. As always, this has been Dela's Voice, hoping to spark your soul. Till next time.